Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has announced that she will resign in January, just 3 days after she qualifies for her pension. Isn't that interesting? Well, with her recent announcement that she was resigning in January, pretty much proves the president right that she was no Republican Marine and is a traitor to the cause. Well, welcome back to Jack's Corner, where truth and reality have a seat at the table. Well, winter's upon us, and here's some trivia, some good news that most overlook. You know, about 50% of the country hate daylight savings time, and, I'm sort of stuck in the middle on that. I don't know which way to jump on that one myself. But as for me, I'd just as soon have summer all year round and about 16 hours of daylight. Well, come December 21st, which is the winter solstice, that is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. The good news there is that after that, the days start getting longer. So this is something that we have to look forward to, and you'll really begin to start seeing the difference around January the 15th. So for those of you like me, good news is on the way, at least in that area. And with that bit of trivia, let's deal with some of the topics of today. And I want to start with what I call, and what others have been calling, the seditious 6 Democrats. Just recently, 6 members of Congress, all Democrats, the Democrat left as I call them, made an advertisement suborning mutiny. I never thought I'd live to see the day when they would openly call for mutiny. That is, that they openly suggested that men and women in uniform could defy orders, but they couched it in the terms of illegal orders. You say they use that little trick, don't obey illegal orders, essentially making each person in the military their own judge and jury as to what constitutes an illegal order. As reported in the Washington Examiner on November the 24th by Elizabeth Stauffer, she said, and I agree and disagree in parts here, here's what she said: there is a very thin line between irresponsible rhetoric and mutiny, and 6 sitting members of Congress became perilously close to crossing it earlier this week. A mutiny doesn't need to resemble the dramatic Mutiny on the Bounty, that famous novel. It can just as easily take the form of a video urging U.S. military personnel to defy illegal orders from their commander-in-chief. That is exactly what the 6 Democrats did. Here's where I have maybe a difference without a distinction, and that is these 6 legislators are using the power of suggestion to encourage and suborn mutiny or insurrection. If I were the Attorney General, I would bring them up on charges, if for nothing else than to put a spotlight on their treasonous thoughts and conduct. The most toxic one of the group is one of the most outrageous, toxic, and malevolent communists within the Democratic Party, and that is Senator Elisa Slotnick. Her rhetoric is incendiary, and you can hear the rage and murderous spirit she has when she speaks. She speaks as a communist revolutionary. Folks, don't miss this. And it's really slick. She's really slick. She knows what she's doing, but she's stoking a lot of this violence. And it's the power of suggestion is what she's using. And I've used that in other articles before, warning you about the power of suggestion. You're planting thoughts in people's heads for them to act upon. So it's time to wake up, and for those of you who live in the states where these lawmakers hail from, you need to call their offices in outrage, but also start looking for their replacements. Here are the treasonous 6: Elisa Slotnick of Michigan, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Representative Chris DeLuzio of Pennsylvania, Representative Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire, Representative Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, and Representative Jason Crow of Colorado. Now, as for Senator Kelly, he must be pushed to resign as he is a former military commander, and the code of conduct doesn't end when you resign. He is up for court-martial, and I'm so glad we have some strong people in the Trump administration that are doing what's right and what's needed to be done for a long time. You see, this is not dependent upon his Senate seat, and that Senate seat doesn't protect him from court-martial. It does not matter. What he and others did is what is called a destabilization technique used by the CIA in other countries to destabilize countries or regimes that need to go because it's not only in our best interest, but the world's best interest. Folks, what these senators did and what the representatives did was not a quick shoot from the hip basement video. It was slick, engineered, and well planned, and there must be charges, as this is by design to destabilize our country. You must let your congressmen and senators in your area know and demand that they act for the ouster of these representatives and senators. But now I want to move to a worn-out but familiar topic, and that is the Epstein files. You know, I never have known a time when it was so easy to speak the truth because the Democrats are so reckless in how they lie that it should become apparent to everyone. That's why I weekly dissect the news for you, giving you information that is hidden by the legacy liars, better known as the legacy or what was the old mainstream media. They are no longer mainstream, and they have never told the truth. This is the one big mistake our founding fathers made regarding the press. Also, the Supreme Court must reverse their earlier decisions regarding defamation and the libel laws so that the media could be sued much easier for their lies. Folks, you have a right to free speech, but you don't have a right to lie. How is it that these judicial geniuses got it so wrong? So, to put another nail in the coffin of the Democrat left's credibility, I want you to think about this for a while. The Democrats tried to make the Epstein files a big issue. Do you know that basically, think about this, for the last 4 years during the Biden administration, the Democrats already had all the files. That's right. And they didn't do anything about it. They could have released them at any time, but they didn't. So why were they pushing it so hard just a few weeks ago for their release? Well, they needed a distraction. Communists who disguise themselves as socialists are taking over the mayorships of major cities in this country on the Democrat ticket. The Democrats shut down the country for 41 days, costing our economy, think about this, $1 trillion, and you're worried about the economy and you're thinking that Trump is at fault? No, the Democrat left just cost you $1 trillion. And if you think that things are not affordable, you better be looking in the direction of the Democrat left. So they cost you that $1 trillion, and you are going to pay for it. Then let's not forget all of the corruption that occurred in the Department of Justice and the FBI, which is now being disclosed. To make things worse, just recently, a handful of Democrat senators and congressmen made a videotape encouraging our men and women to commit what is tantamount to mutiny. Another term would be treason, and that is a crime punishable by life or execution. Folks, these people in the Democrat Party are enemy combatants as far as I'm concerned, and they are a real danger to your life, liberty, and happiness. Now, in the past, if I said something like that, many would think it gross hyperbole. But now the facts are backing it up, so much so that the alarm bells are ringing around the country, proving that what I have been saying and warning about with regards to Civil War 2.0 is not that far-fetched. After all, the Democrats talk about it all the time. In my writings and podcasts, I have established for you the mental maladjustment that causes people like the Democrat left to lie with such impunity and to be so corrupt and filled with hate. You can see it in them all the time. Have you ever heard anything that the Democrats have said in the last 10 months that's positive? They haven't come up with one idea that is good for you or good for the nation. Have you ever heard them say anything good about the country? Have you ever heard any of them say that they really love this country? I've given you so many examples of it and the extremes to which they will go, the Democrat left will go to destroy this country, and they're doing it. And it's all because of their power. They're lusting for power, and they care nothing about you. Now, like I said, communism comes in with a smile, and here you have a picture of Mondami, but it comes in with a smile, and so many people just, doesn't he seem to be such a nice guy? But as I've said in other podcasts and articles that I've written, communism comes in with a smile, but it leaves with a field full of dead bodies. And there's not an example in world history that proves me wrong. You need to wake up or you're going to be one of those bodies on that field. Also, the path that they take to power is exactly as I have spelled it out, and of what you were seeing play out with the Democrat left. They are no longer embarrassed by the patent lies that they tell because they depend upon the uninformed, the simple-minded, who are always ready to buy up the empty promises that the left makes. So the point of this segment is just one more indictment as to why you should not and cannot vote for anyone in the Democrat Party. I don't care if they're running for dog catcher. No matter how nice they seem or how smoothly they talk, they always vote in unanimity, and their platform and policies always model the Communist Manifesto and the 10-point plan that the Communist Party came up with in the 1940s and the 50s to basically destroy this country. They're following the pattern, and it's undeniable. Folks, the only reason they have gotten as far as they have is because we tolerated it. So I'll give you another action plan to add to the ones that I've already given you. You must train yourself daily to be on guard and intolerant to the lies of the Democrat left. You can't just slough them off and say, well, there they go again. No, you've got to face them. You've got to confront them. Just as the Bible tells us to be wise and on guard with regard to the wiles of the devil, it is so profound today that your job is made easy because we don't have to be laboriously sunk and deep into research and pick and choose as if we were splitting a ticket on a voting ballot. And that's because the Democrat left has made it easy for us. All one needs to do is look at their platform and the things that they have supported, and they all vote unanimously and as one solid block. Given how all Democrats march in lockstep with one another, anyone that would lend aid and comfort in support of any Democrat needs to be ostracized. Don't keep company with them. Be wise. Don't be unequally yoked. So I want to start exercising intolerance for the lie, intolerance for the deception and manipulation, intolerance for the many empty promises. Folks, if you have any degree of observational skills and deductive reasoning, this is one of the easiest things you will do. And in doing so, you will protect your life as well as your families. Now, as you know from my writings and podcasts, I have been beating the drum with regard to the connection of communism and the Democrat Party. Well, the Democrats just a few weeks ago were faced with a vote in the House to condemn the horrors of socialism. Now, as I have also told you that when you hear the term socialism, you must immediately think in terms of communism because socialism is just a euphemistic term for communism. So 127 Democrats on Friday, November the 21st, refused to vote to condemn the horrors of communism. Imagine that. They are now on the record, and again, it just proves my point that I have been making for years. I want you to start practicing intolerance for the Democrat left and anyone and any organization that supports them. We are drawing the lines of demarcation and distinction to make it easy for people. Just as Christians are not to tolerate evil or associate with it, likewise, no freedom-loving American should tolerate communism of the Democrat left. Okay, let's hit some news articles real quick, and we will start off with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has announced that she will resign in January, just 3 days after she qualifies for her pension. Isn't that interesting? She started raging against the House Speaker and the Republican Party and claims that she was being threatened by the president. Well, Marjorie, you have been showing signs of mental instability for some time. I do not have a degree in psychology hanging on my wall, but there is such a thing called autodidact, which means self-taught. In over 45 years as a practicing attorney, I have developed certain skills in dealing with hundreds and thousands of clients. And you have to do that to understand and come to a quick analysis as to who you're dealing with and whether or not there's somebody you want to deal with. I came up with my 5-minute psychoanalysis technique, and I looked for certain indicia that would serve as red flags when there was something deeper going on. This became glaringly apparent with Marjorie Taylor Greene, leading up to her visit with the women on the TV program The View. Can you imagine that? Just that act alone, you could write a small book on, and the psychological implications, if not also the lack of political wisdom in doing so. Well, with her recent announcement that she was resigning in January, pretty much proves the president right that she was no Republican Marine and is a traitor to the cause. But I will alert you to the fact that so many red flags are waving on this woman that there is more going on than outward appearances would reveal. So stay tuned. The last shoe is yet to drop on her. Well, here's more duplicity and lies of the Democrat left. Democrat Goldman of New York. And here's a picture of him. One of the most prolific liars in the House had this to say last week regarding the FBI. But the problem is that in pretty much every other case, he said that the problem is that in pretty much every other case, Kash Patel is not doing his job. Really? You've not been watching the news? Which is why morale in the FBI is unbelievably low. That's what Goldman said, and why people are miserable there and why they are doing such a poor job, because they're so focused on the politics of everything and they're not focused on the safety and security of the American people. And that is what is missing. That's what we're losing through this dreadful FBI. That's Goldman for you. Goldman had no evidence as to the morale of those working in the FBI, nor their focus, nor the success that they have had in protecting the American people. He had nothing. He had no evidence. Those are outrageous things to say that many simpletons will cling to as the gospel truth. See, that's why the Democrats lie, because their constituency is the simpletons, the headline readers only, and they don't care to read deeply. But the Democrats have learned that they can get by with these kind of lies. And I'll guarantee you, Goldman is one of the greatest liars in the Democrat left right now. And all you have to do is go back and look at his history and do a fact check, and you won't be able to find the truth in Goldman because he's never been introduced to the truth. He defended the Biden Justice Department, caught red-handed in their political bias and lawfare against their opponents, such as considering Orthodox Catholics suspect and potential terrorists, or parents at school board meetings as being terrorists. Keep Goldman in mind when it comes to fact-checking. I've watched him for years and have yet to hear him be candid or truthful on anything. He is a pathological liar. This also speaks volumes about his constituency, but also the American electorate, which is heading for ruin, not because of Trump, but because of the corrupt deep state that opposes him and impedes the corrective action needed to save us from the brink. Trump needs every bit of his remaining 3 years in office, but if you don't get out and help keep the Republicans in power in 2026, then all will be lost. All too often, the problem lies with lazy Republicans and conservatives and Christians. They have no one else to blame but themselves. Well, here's some more important news items that you need to know about. Paul Campo, who previously served as a high-ranking Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA official in the Obama administration, is accused, along with a friend, of agreeing to launch and launder millions for the CJNG. That's a cartel, one of Mexico's largest drug cartels. No surprise here, folks. Once again, as we diagnose the problem, it is all associated with the Democrat left. You elected an undeniably communist president in Barack Obama. Remember this, his grandparents were card-carrying and avowed American Communist Party members. So was his parents. So what do you think he was? Just look at what he did to this country and look at all the leftist judges he appointed. Remember, good fruit doesn't come from a bad tree. And why? Because the liberal whites got you to feeling false guilt for slavery 175 years ago. How stupid. This was moronic white guilt. And now here's one for you. All the Democrats are saying that bombing drug boats coming from communist Venezuela is illegal. Have you ever known a Democrat to stand up for America? Well, I can tell you this. I have had confirmed with people in the know. And whenever any military action is taken, military attorneys are on the scene making sure that things are done according to the rules of war. Our intelligence agencies even know the home addresses and names of every cartel leader. We know when the drugs are being shipped and where and how. When those boats are blown up, it is backed up with abundant evidence. Then we have the real drug cartel, that is the Democrat left in this country, who want to give due process to enemy combatants, but want to punish victims of the crimes that they helped, that is the Democrats helped create in this country. Now let's look at Senator Kelly of Arizona. He attacked the president along with other Democrats as committing war crimes in stopping drug boats coming to America after Kelly suggested to our military men and women that they could decide what is illegal, an illegal order from the commander-in-chief and disobey it. He is possibly looking at a court-martial, and I hope he does get it. After all, don't forget, he is buddy-buddy with the Soros clan. Nothing good comes out of that. Just connecting the dots for you again. Just think about this. It's really simple. So why do the Democrats want to catch those navigating the drug boats instead of sinking them? So they can stand trial before Democrat judges and be let off. And we've seen that time and time again over the last 4 years where the Democrat-appointed judges will not convict anybody, and they actually will turn around and penalize the victims. You see it every day. Everything the Democrats do and how they think is antithetical to an orderly and healthy society. It is against humanity. Now, here's a picture of my friend Andy Biggs of Arizona, who I had dinner with a couple of months ago in D.C. as we talked about his run for governor in Arizona. And he has recently presented the Republican leadership in the House a comprehensive health care reform framework calling for immediate legislative action and urging an end to what they describe as years-long delays on conservative health care priority and plan. And it's about time, Republicans. You always seem to let Democrats steal Republican ideas. Folks, we have to purge the Republican Party of weak, feckless Republicans like Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who has yet to have any good ideas or announce one. All he can think of doing is opposing the president and getting his face in the news on TV. Come on, Kentucky voters, wise up. Smell the coffee. Get out of your libertarian delusion and get this jerk out of office. You supported the president by 67% in your district, yet you voted for a man that opposes the president on the most important and critical pieces of legislation that the Republicans and the president needs. You know that doesn't make sense. Now, here's one for you. By now, you should be aware of the billion-dollar fraud of the Somalis in Minnesota who funneled money to terrorists in their country of origin. Yeah, you helped pay for that because the Democrats in charge. You see, too many of us are committing a slow suicide because you're not paying attention. Well, in Breitbart News, we have this cozy picture of that psychologically deranged governor and former VP candidate with an illegal Abdullah Dahar Abraham. The Somalian illegal immigrant and convicted fraudster is seen here in photos getting cozy with leading Minnesota Democrats, Tim Walz, not to be left out, and he has finally been arrested. Remember, criminals don't vote Republican. This is the constituency of the Democrat left party. Now, adding to the dysfunction of Minnesota, here is where the FBI and the Justice Department must exercise federal intervention and arrest state leaders. As reported in Breitbart News, Minneapolis police officers are reportedly in danger of losing their jobs if they do not intervene in certain situations where it involves, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That is, they don't want them helping ICE agents. And nothing is more disgusting than seeing a coward play the role of a man, as pictured here with the police chief. You know, weak guys role-playing as tough guys. Well, slap some cuffs on this guy and charge him and indict him with the felony of obstructing of federal officials in enforcing federal immigration law, and you will see that tough guy melt like ice cream in July. Now, here's a good one for you. On C-SPAN's Ceasefire, Representative Don Bacon, now he's a Republican in Nebraska, said Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's time in office will cause damage to our country for years to come. Where do we get Republicans like this? What's Bacon doing? Is he trying to win points with the Democrat left? Is he acting like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger? He's giving aid and comfort to the enemy. How insane is that? We have to do a better job of vetting these folks. So to wrap up the news update, the inept British voter who voted in the Communists via the Labour Party, known for decades for their coziness with authoritarianism, have just awakened to elections being canceled and facial recognition to be implemented around the country. Folks, this is sad, but free speech is dead in England. Now, those idiots who voted Liberal and for the Liberal Party are taking it to the streets in the tens of thousands in protest to say they want their country back. Well, good luck. You waited too long. When you lose your freedoms, it takes a revolution to get it back. And Elon Musk warned them just in the last month that civil war was inevitable in England. Just as I'm warning the people here in America. I can't go to England anymore because of my exercise of free speech, particularly like in the podcast and my website. Here I am with Nigel Farage in D.C. a few months back. Right after this picture, I was talking to Nigel, and I asked him that once you become PM, I want you to restore free speech to England so I could visit again. I certainly don't want to end up at customs and get arrested there because of what I posted. And that's exactly what they're doing to their own citizens. It's so simple and clear that even the blind can see this growing and coming to America. Well, okay, folks. Well, that'll do it for now and for this episode. I've now done 54 episodes, and hopefully I've rid you of any excuse not to be fully engaged in fighting for your freedoms. Self-recrimination is very uncomfortable and gets worse with the severity and penalty of the consequences. Check out our website at bluegrasschronicles.com for books, past episodes, articles, and more. Until next time, I'm Jack Richardson for Jack's Corner.